The Rod of Unmaking. His old gnarled fingers ran over the cherry-hot metal, feeling the grooves and carvings. Cleaning off his thumb with a rag, the bent figure picked up some black pebbles, and fitting them in his bearded mouth, he crunched down, powdering the stones with his black stained teeth. Then, breathing in through his nose, he blew a green hot flame from his mouth into the metal rod in his hands. Smiling at the heat of the metal, he snorted out a lick of flame. Then, bending to task once more, he pressed his thumb in, plying the metal with his flesh as if it were a common smith's chisel. Slowly he worked the rod, chewing and spitting fire as it cooled, now and then running his fingertips over top as if reading a story. Long he worked in the timeless dark of his underground workshop, the deep-rooted basalt of the mountain reflecting the flames of his breath, as his pale, blind eyes stared out at the mists that plague all those who stop counting their years. When the flames dried out his throat, he would dip a twisted ram's horn deep into an aged barrel, pulling out amber honey liquid to pour down his gullet. Then, chewing more of the black stones, he would get himself back to work. Thin shavings and cuts of metal littered around his hard, leathery feet, kicking this way and that as he rocked back and forth, fingers pressing and carving the cherry-red metal. Then finally he stopped as if surprised, feeling the rod softly with his fingers. He twirled it in his hands, feeling the weight and heft, the song it whistled as it swung through the air. Once more he dipped the twisted ram's horn deep, savoring the honey on his tongue. Then, gripping the rod tightly in both hands, he sprayed the deep amber mead across the cooling metal. Singing low with the deep murmur of an icy cave, he pulled the air deep through his nose, through his stomach, and out his mouth. Barking out sparks, his words hit the rod, causing it to buck in his hands like a living thing. Sweat pouring down his lean, hunched body, he continued to sing out words of power, holding the rod tightly as it heated once more from the force of his sounds. He continued to sing out syllables from the primal times, as his mouth filled with the taste of copper. Red droplets fell from his nose to the floor, his lips glistening crimson as he sang out, the cords of muscle in his arms and shoulders bunching under the strain. Slowly the fight bled out of the metal, and once more the twisted ram's horn drank deep of mead. Spitting the amber gift over the rod, he ran his hand shakily over his bald skull, leaving a streak of sweat and blood. Breathing deep, calming breaths, his fingers searched for any flaw, any crease, twist, or fracture. Twirling in his fingers, he listened again to its whistling cry. Raising the rod over his glistening head, he snapped down his arm with a whip-crack force, the rod connecting with a solid iron slab of an anvil as sparks and smoke spit deep into the air. The ringing cry of metal on metal sang out as the rod unmade the anvil. Scorched metal splashed on the chest and form of the smith. Grunting happily, he wiped the molten iron off of his face with his aged fingers, blind eyes twinkling happily with delight. Grunting softly, he set himself in his old wooden chair, the grain black with years of smoke and oil. Clutching the rod tightly to his chest, he muttered to the living metal, telling it secrets known only to the deep earth, secrets learned from years, unnumbered years. Treatying with ore and rock, he muttered and pets the living iron, laying his innumerable years out. And slowly his old white eyes close, his mouth still moving as air is pushed less and less through his airways. His blood-speckled lips still moving till his breathing slows and he drops off to sleep. The harsh breath of his soft snore is all that's heard through the ancient forge, through the marbled halls, the carved ceilings, and the mosaics, forgotten wars and long forgotten warriors. Till soon the halls fell silent. No feet pattered through them, no stamp of boot or scuff of shoe. The silent halls and forge glittered in crystal lanterns, till those too grew silent and faded. There the rod lay, its carved iron flesh glowing with an inner fire, its sleeping soft form hardened steel in the old man's grasp, the last greatest masterpiece of the old master smith. This was The Rod of Unmaking, a short story written by yours truly. So tell me what you think, whether you liked it or not. I'll probably be doing more of these scattered in amongst the other readings. Thank you. You have yourself a blessed day.